Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, guys, this one's probably going to be a bit of a quick one because I got to leave for work in about an hour or so, but I want to get you guys set for Game 3 tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think Game 2, we can all agree, a little bit more fun than Game 1, right? As the Leafs responded in every single way that you could have wanted them to after dropping the first one on home ice 7-3. And now the series does shift to Tampa Bay, and the Leafs don't have home ice advantage anymore. But at the same time, I'm feeling confident about where we are in this series right now. The idea that the whistles go away come playoff time is dead. It is gone because this entire series right now is being decided by special teams, and I can't imagine that it's going to stop being that way. But if they do ever end up going away, maybe in game 6 and game 7 like they usually do, I have full confidence that the Toronto Maple Leafs will absolutely feed the Tampa Bay Lightning their lunch this year. Because the power play opportunities in game 2, the Leafs had 6 of them, the Lightning had 3 of them, but if you're looking at it like that, you're looking at it wrong. Because if you watch that game, the Lightning had no interest in playing hockey at all in that third period. They were just interested in trying to take some flesh, trying to take a pound out of the Maple Leafs and get them off of their game in that period. They took a bunch of penalties that they didn't care whether they took or not. The power play opportunities through the first period were 3-3 for both teams, and then something interesting happened in that second period that we haven't seen yet between these two teams through two games. In the second period of game 2, there were no penalties called in that period. And the Toronto Maple Leafs absolutely fed the Tampa Bay Lightning their lunch for 20 minutes at 5 on 5. They controlled the vast majority of the shot attempts, the vast majority of the actual shots. They controlled the majority of the scoring opportunities. They controlled the majority of the high danger shot attempts. And oh, by the way, they also outscored them 3-1. We talked about it before this series even got started. The Tampa Bay Lightning, their game, they've led the entire NHL over the last 3 years in terms of penalties taken and penalties drawn during the regular season. Their goal is to play as little of this series at 5 on 5 as possible. And in that second period, they didn't accomplish their goal. And the Toronto Maple Leafs absolutely killed them because of it. Obviously, the Lightning were without Victor Hedman and Eric Cernak in game 2, two of their better overall defensemen. But even with those guys in the lineup, I would go as far as to say that the Toronto Maple Leafs are the far better team at 5 on 5. It's unfortunate that they can only do so much to control how much of the series is played at 5 on 5 because the referees do play a factor in that. But if historical data shows you anything, it's that as you move deeper and deeper into a playoff series, the whistles do in fact go away with you being basically being able to get away with murder in games 6 and 7. But hey, even if the whistles don't go away later on in this series, the Maple Leafs power play right now is 4 for 10 in this series, and I feel like they're snapping the puck around with a lot more purpose, getting the Tampa Bay Lightning penalty killers and Andre Vasilevskiy moving side to side and up and down in the zone, and they're getting traffic in front of the net, and they're making their lives difficult. In terms of any lineup changes that we could see for the Maple Leafs heading into game 3, Sheldon Keefe sort of just said maybe. And then Luke Fox tweeted out that Timothy Liljegren did not stay on the ice for any extra work this morning, maybe implying that he draws into the lineup. We don't really have an idea who could be coming out of the lineup for Timothy Liljegren, but we can make an educated guess. In looking at the numbers so far in all situations, Justin Hall's been on the ice for 0 goals for and 7 goals against, but also his D partner, Mark Giordano, has been on the ice for 1 goal for and 5 goals against in all situations. It's not good. I know that those are two penalty killers, but still, it's not good. And then if you look at the 5 on 5 numbers, those two guys have been on the ice for 0 goals for, 4 goals against, 0 goals for, 3 goals against. And if you're looking at the way that Sheldon Keefe has deployed these guys so far in the playoffs, they've been in more favorable matchups, playing more offensive zone opportunities. So maybe this is Sheldon Keefe making the decision here, saying, hey, the series is shifting from Toronto to Tampa Bay. I don't have last change anymore. These guys haven't figured it out. and I'm not going to let John Cooper absolutely feast on that pairing. We need to make a change. We need to shake things up, and it's not Mark Giordano that's coming out of the lineup. In looking at the lineup for game two, maybe the Leafs decide to go with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen and just keep Justin Hall in there as an option, just depending on how things are going, because he's a very up and down player, right? We don't need to get into the entire conversation all over again, but there is a possibility that if he did play in this game, he could be one of your best defensemen. That's the way that it goes for him. But in looking at if they did go 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, in looking at which forward you would take out of the lineup, I don't really know who that would be, because Matthew Knies played absolutely incredible on that line with Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari. That third line was dominant for the Toronto Maple Leafs in game 2 against the Lightning, and that fourth line serves a purpose, right? It's the shutdown pair B line. They serve a purpose. I like what they've done so far in this series, aside from the opening 90 seconds. And then jumping into things on the Tampa Bay side, Eric Chernak did not participate in morning skate. I can't imagine him playing, but then again, who knows? It's the playoffs, and it's John Cooper. In checking in with Victor Hedman, he is a game time decision tonight. He did take morning skate with his usual D partner, Nick Perbix, I believe is his name. But then again, who knows? Like we said in the previous video, Victor Hedman played through a torn meniscus in last year's playoffs. Whatever is bothering him clearly isn't insignificant. Even if either of those guys did draw into the lineup, or if both of them drew into the lineup, I can't imagine them being 100% anyway. But the fact that both of those guys were out for game two was absolutely massive. The Leafs needed to take advantage of that, and they needed to do it in a big way. They needed the Tampa Bay Lightning to be afraid of what happens when you don't have those guys in the lineup, right? And they got absolutely pummeled 7-2. Maybe they make a brash decision here and they rush those guys back from injury. Maybe they're not at 100%, and the Maple Leafs are able to take advantage of that. They need to. They need to absolutely take it to these guys, and they can't let their foot off the pedal, because the Lightning will hold on to any sliver of hope that you can give them. But seriously, if these guys aren't in the lineup, or if they are, they're not going to be at 100%. Looking at the numbers last season, when these two guys played together at 5-on-5 against the Maple Leafs, they played the majority of their ice time up against Austin Matthews, and they controlled the actual goals for and against 4-3, and the rest of the numbers were pretty ho-hum in heavy defensive zone minutes. This was the Lightning's best shutdown pair. It was their best answer to what the Maple Leafs had to throw over the boards to be able to score goals. And if they don't have either of them out there, even if they do, like I said, they're not going to be at 100%. The Maple Leafs need to take advantage of this. And if either of these guys or both of these guys are playing in the game tonight, I'm not saying to throw any sort of dirty hit, but what I am saying is to finish your checks, because that's what you should be doing. Just a fun little stat before we wrap up the video here. Andrei Vasilevskiy, through 9 career playoff games against Toronto, has an .887 save percentage. And I know he was real good in that game 7 last year. Trust me, you don't got to tell me that. The point of the stat, though, is in all 9 games, he's got an .887. And a lot of people told me not to poke the bear. And trust me, I understand. But at the same time, that's the whole point of being a fan and cheering for your favorite team at this time of the year. I'm going to give it to you, you give it to me, and hopefully the teams do the talking for us on the ice. And that's the way that it should be. And in terms of who the officials are going to be for tonight, I understand if we start making too big of a deal about this, people are going to start calling us whiners. But at the same time, it does matter. And it really only matters as long as Wes McCauley is not there, because again, the Leafs are 0-8 in the playoffs when he officiates games. But really, it's not just about them being 0-8 when Wes McCauley officiates games. It's that stupid stuff always seems to happen when he's out there. So as long as he's not out there, I'm cool with it. In terms of the series shifting from Toronto to Tampa Bay is one of the best teams in their own barn in the entire NHL. They're not very good on the road. So the fact that Toronto dropped that game 1, it stings. It is, but the series is tied at 1. All they need to do is come out tonight and bring a similar effort to what they did in game 2, if not improve upon that if you can. Um, and we should be able to take back home ice advantage. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. Mitch Marner currently tied for the playoff lead in points with 6. He brought a real superstar effort in game 2, not just offensively, but defensively as well, diving to keep pucks out or to keep pucks in control with a Toronto Maple Leafs player. He was absolutely fantastic plucking shots on the penalty kill. We need him to do that again tonight. Morgan Riley with 4 primary assists in that game. Um, on Thursday night. Just absolutely unbelievable. He continues to step his game up in the playoffs. We talked about him as maybe something the Leafs should have been worried about heading into this year's playoffs because he hadn't played well the last month and a half or so. Morgan Riley is back, and he is playing absolutely fantastic for them. Through 2 games in this series, I'm not gonna say that he's played bad because he's got 4 points, but Austin Matthews sitting with no goals so far, whatever it takes to win, as long as the team wins, but it would be nice to see him get on the board, and get on the board early, you know? There's something to be said about your team's best player scoring early on in a game. Their first home game could take a lot of wind out of that building and swing things back in favor of the Leafs. I'm looking for Austin Matthews to have a big game. I'm looking for the captain to build off the hat trick that he had in the previous. There's so much stuff to talk about. I don't have time. I gotta leave for work in like half an hour, and I still have to edit this video. I wish I could have talked about everything that made that game two so amazing, but just don't have time. So hopefully, game 3 is just as good, if not better, and I should have more time to talk about it tonight or tomorrow as well. And as always, guys, make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And guys, I'll talk to you in the next one. Go Leafs, go.